Good morning. Welcome to Start Our Stream with me, your host, Chuck Bass, brought to you live by Player Profiler and Fast Draft. As you guys all know, Chuck Bass here. I won my home league 3 years in a row from 2014 to 2016, featuring players like Lamar Miller and Justin Forsett. So the big dogs up top have entrusted me to bring you all that week-winning advice that you so crave throughout the season. Happy to have you guys. You should be in church, but instead you're staring deep into the eyes of the greatest commissioner in pro sports history. It's going to be an awful, awful day to be your opponents. So let's just jump right into it here. I see some of the chat already shouting out Lincoln. What's going on, buddy? Start Pacheco, Coleman, or Ridley. This is how we're starting off, guys. This is how we're starting off.
Look.
All right. The clips are back, and so are the questions. This is a tough one, and particularly, I'm probably leaning Ridley here just for the target volume. I like his matchup a lot more this week. I thought Cam Ward looked a lot better than the stats indicate. Ridley just had a few drops, which, look, that's Calvin Ridley. That's what he's going to do. I still think the target consolidation was pretty strong there, so let's go with him. Keon Coleman, I thought looked good, but almost entirely of his production came in the fourth quarter in a game where they were down 16. So I'd like to see what a game script looks like in a matchup against the Jets. Now, I do like the Jets in that matchup in particular, particularly what Justin Fields and Breece Hall can do on the ground. So I just don't know how much passing volume we're going to see. We got a lot of answers last week from a lot of teams. I didn't get a ton from the Bills. So I'd like to see that. And Pacheco, I just didn't think looked very good at all, which I got to take the L on that one. You know what? Let's do a quick L check-in. What did we get right last week? We got Bill Krosky-Merritt. We got Breece Hall, Dylan Sampson, Marvin Harrison, Ashton Genty, Bowers, Warren, Aaron Rodgers, if you watch the show, and Isaac Tesla. But where did we get wrong? Nobody gives a shit about some random guy and who called it right. You want to know where I fucked up, and I got to be honest with you guys. I botched Matthew Golden, all the Bengals, George Pickens, Tank Bigsby. God, what the fuck happened? Calvin Ridley last week let us down. Jalen Waddle, my God, trade Tyreek already. Nico Collins killed me. Josh Downs was a big bust for me. And David Montgomery didn't have that week one touchdown. History is changing, guys. There's a bubble. There's a bubble, and we got to be ready for it. All right. Now, what else we got here? Shtaka, Zulu, 12. Dak Prescott or Justin Fields. Man, talk about my subconscious actually coming live on the program. I'm dealing this one personally myself. Several leagues I started Dak in, and I got that big fat 7, and it did not help me at all last week. So the pivot feels like to Justin Fields. I think what we saw from the Jets attack overall was something to be very, very optimistic about. Let's see here. Jets last week, number 1 in passing EPA per play in a game against the Steelers. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming, myself included. They were way up there in rush as well, 7th in rush EPA per play, and we all know what the fantasy points were. So kind of a wait-and-see approach with Dak. I think he still has a chance to be among the league leaders in passing, and he does have a decent matchup against the Giants. Giants defense that did. Maybe you call holding the Commanders to 230 passing yards is a good thing. The receiving game it was not there for the Commanders week one. It was fine. They got to their end stat line, but I thought the Giants did okay. If they could have had some offense, maybe they would have won that game. So that's a fancy way of saying, let's get some Justin Fields in there. There's still not enough tape on how they're going to deploy this rushing attack overall. So I think that they might be able to get a jump on the Bills, who, God damn, the Bills defense too, man. If you look at all the EPA metrics as well, where did they rank last week? They ranked they won the game. They were the story of the week, but they were 29th in EPA per pass, and they were 31st in EPA per rush, and they were getting just their shit pushed in left and right. So 28th overall in success rate. That's the kind of defense that you start players like Justin Fields against. So let's all take a quick breather here. Let's take a little sip. I've got my pumpkin soy vegan matcha. No, this is drip coffee. This is drip coffee because it's going to be a drip kind of day. So let's move on to the next one here. Okay. Space Ricky, Fields, Knicks or Dak. Same thing here. Let's rock Fields back out there. Bo Nix. I wasn't big on Bo this year, guys. Not because I don't think he can do some work in the pocket, outside of the pocket, all that stuff. I just don't love the weapons there. I think it's a bunch of decent pieces. I know he had a terrific rookie year last year, but I think a lot of that was Sean Payton. So obviously hold on to Bo because I think he is in the best offensive ecosystem. But I just feel a lot better about how they're going to deploy Fields, especially if they're just getting him easy target reads that takes pressure off the run game. That's going to be a nice one here. So what do we got? Podson, Flex Juju, Kareem Hunt, or Grant Calcaterra. Well, guys,
grabs me by the wings. Shut the fuck up!
that's how I'm feeling about this one in particular. What happened to our lives, right? We spent all summer trying to draft these teams, and then week one, we got to figure out Juju, Kareem Hunt, or Grant. The Juju one's tough, depending on where they line him up. I mean, obviously, the strength of the Eagles' defense is the entire fucking defense. So I'm not feeling terrific about the KC pass game with no Worthy, with no Rice, with a deteriorated Travis Kelce, who I thought looked pretty bad last week. They got him out on a trick play, more or less, on a great route, but otherwise, he looked his age. So of all these guys here, and then you got Kareem Hunt, who doesn't look great either, and then Grant stepping in. PPR, you know what? Let's take a shot on Juju. Let's take a shot on 5 for 50, maybe a lucky touchdown. Good possibility the Chiefs are playing from behind for a lot of this game. So I like that. I like that what they try to come to the table with there. So let's rock that one out. 2 of 3, Odunze, Olave, Waddle. Oh, man, you and I are like-minded here. If you have all 3 of these guys on a roster, I have several teams that have these exact players, and I know what you're trying to do, and you're going to get away with it. All right, 2 out of 3 here. So we've got Odunze traveling to Detroit for the first game at Ford Field. And then we've got Olave taking on the 49ers, who are pretty banged up, but the cornerback play is still pretty solid. And then you've got Waddle in this mess of a situation taking on the Patriots at home. Here's the thing. We're starting Waddle. And the reason we're starting Waddle is Waddle has – I think he has close to 50 fantasy points total in his last 3 games at home against the Patriots. Now, obviously, you might slide some different players in there defensively, but it has been this Mike McDaniel scheme all 3 of those games. So let's ride that wave there. Let's hope that they can right the ship in some way, because the Patriots defense still missing Christian Gonzalez, and it's not really a great unit overall. They got shredded by Geno last week. They ended up finishing middle of the pack, 19th against the pass, not bad, but the success rate was pretty low. So we're starting Waddle, and I like Olave. I like Olave here. I like the target volume he's going to get. I'm not sure specifically what the score of this game is going to be. I believe the implied over-under total here is, what do we got? 39.5. So that is pretty low, but I mean, you just have to be encouraged about what you saw from him last week. I mean, if you want to go Rome, that's fine. I'm not gonna knock anybody there. Thought he looked pretty good last week too, but I just like the Lions in a bounce back game here. I like them to get some shit to get their shit together a little bit. I feel a little bit better about them after seeing the Packers pants the Commanders on Thursday Night Football and make the Packers look like one of the better teams in the league. So let's go with Olave and Waddle there. And if Odunze pops off and scores the most points here, I'll buy you a coffee. How about that? All right, that is on camera. That is live. That is a verbal contract. Coleman, Rome, or Hill. Now this is a fun one.
You know what? The only thing I am worried about is getting a boner.
God, I love the way she looks in there. Coleman, Rome, or Hill. So let's hedge our bets a little bit. Let's take Rome in that matchup here. And you know what? Do you want to be a part of maybe the last good Tyreek Hill game we ever get? Because this could be it. I don't know what the future holds for this guy. I don't know what the court documents say. I don't know how good her lawyer is. But I do know that the window is closing on this Tyreek Hill experience that we've all been running through. And like I said, like I was talking about with Waddle, he gets another feast matchup against a Patriots defense that has historically been pretty bad in Miami specifically. So we're talking September games at home. There's never probably been more pressure on an offense to succeed than there is on the Dolphins going into this game. And I know Mike Vrabel knows that. I know there's a lot of things that they can figure out. And, they can say all they want about or the Dolphins can say all they want about a lot of things. But overall, this offense operates the same week to week, and it's just about who can stop it and who can't. They don't really change anything up. So if the Patriots are able to, be the team that switches it up, good for them. But historically, I don't think that's going to be the case. So let's go Rome there. Let's go Hill. And you guys are going to see me not do a lot of Keon Coleman this week. I like the Jets secondary, and I just want to wait and see. I think that overall this Bills offense could be a little bit more spread it around than Coleman's target and overall volume numbers looked last week. So let's see what it looks like. Jake Diana. That's a great name. I've never heard that combination of words before. And I just got a little bit of the dopamine hit there, Jake. So I appreciate you stopping by the show today. Chris Olave or Jameson Williams. We're going Olave here. I like Jameson coming into the season. I still do. But this offense, John Morton, he gets up there and they ask him a question about the game. John Morton, offensive coordinator for the Lions. And he says, I don't want to talk about this game anymore. Can we move on to the next? Can we move on to next week? Shout out to Coach Speak for saying that's scared to compete. That is not what you want to see from an offensive coordinator coming in, stepping up to the mantle here. So a little, some of these ancillary players on the Lions, I'm not feeling terrific about, especially compared to Olave, who we got the Olave special last week, guys. 13 targets and then several trips to the medical tent. I mean, what if you hate Olave, you got what you wanted. If you love Olave, you got what you wanted. So appreciate that. Let's go with Olave. We're just smashing volume early in the season until we see what a little bit more of these roles end up becoming for guys like Jameson Williams. So Caleb Williams or JJ McCarthy?
Man.
What kind of drugs do you take?
It's nothing like that.
What the hell is wrong with you?
I just.
Where are we at? Well, this is a question, guys. No, I'm just kidding. I actually like JJ this week. I like the matchup against the Falcons. I thought Baker could have absolutely shredded them for much more if he would played a little bit more calmly. Obviously, he threw 3 touchdowns, and that looks great at the end of the day. But I think he was just antsy in the pocket and missed a lot of throws as well and some bad stuff. So if JJ can play like that guy that we saw in the last 12 minutes of the game against the Bears, I think he could be a fringe top 15 quarterback with higher punch ceiling for most of the year. And then Caleb, I still feel decent about too. You got to love the scrambling. You got to love how he was moving around, getting out, picking up some yards with his feet. But let's see here. The passing is going to be, the biggest debate of the week was was it Caleb Williams' fault on some of these throws or was it not? And the answer was basically yes and no. So if you want to split the difference there, he's going to Detroit, implied over under in this game, 46.5, Lions by 6.5. I feel like I was talking about, I feel a little bit better about the Lions defense being able to right the ship early than I do about the offense, just because I do feel like there's a little bit more carryover from that unit. They promoted from the inside at defensive coordinator. So, the Packers look like one of the 3 best offenses in the league. So like I said, I'm willing to write off last week and give them a little bit of a shot. Just to give you a little, where did the Bears and EPA, you guys are going to see me fall back on EPA a lot this year, but that's because they're just paying me to do it. So it's all good. 24th in pass EPA. So yeah, DJ Moore, get him a little bit more involved. Let's see some Colston Loveland, whose mother followed me on Twitter a couple weeks ago. You're going to shout out to her. Let's get some, I'm recommending JJ here, but also I'm just giving you the Caleb Williams picture if your heart so inclines to go that way. So Zach, good to see you, buddy. Travis Kelce versus the Eagles or Tyler Warren versus the Broncos. Man, this is a fucking brutal one. Let's go with Warren here. I was really encouraged from what I saw. They found ways to get him involved immediately and in intermediate areas of the field and give him yards after the catch opportunities. Those are a lot of fancy buzzwords, right? They're all good ones, though. Trust me. I just thought Kelce looked like shit. He's got a wedding planning going on. His wife is all up in his ear. He is just not the player he used to be. And if the Chargers defense, no matter who's coaching, they always give up one boneheaded play per game. And that leak out where he comes up and cut that touchdown. There wasn't anybody within 15 yards, and that's not Travis Kelce separating or winning. That is just Chiefs bullshit. And the Eagles, they know the Eagles wrote the book on how to stop Chiefs bullshit. They did it on the most public of stages. So let's go with Tyler Warren there. You want to feel like you're going to feel better if Warren pops off too than if Kelce has the same thing, 2 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. It's just not where you want to be. All right, what are we at here? We're at the 15-minute mark of the show. It is Sunday morning. We are doing start or stream here live on Player Profiler Sunday morning.
You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility.
God, I miss her. I want you guys to know the Fathead is in the mail. It will be right here behind me at some point here. During the draft night, I said that if Jalen Milroe goes before Shedeur Sanders, I'll get a Nancy Pelosi Fathead. Now, I want to be a man of my word, so that baby is ordered and on its way. Let's get back to some more start sits here. Okay. 2 picks. Good to see you, buddy. Happy to have you guys here. Good morning. McCarthy or Burrow? In all seriousness, we got to go Burrow here. I think that Browns defense, not only was it a divisional week 1 game, but they're dogs. They've got terrific players at all levels of the defense. They were crushing the Bengals offensive line. Vegas over under here, 48.5, which is the highest of the week here. They're hoping for a shootout in Jacksonville. Jacksonville defense sucks ass also. They just happened to play what I think is probably one of the 2 to 3 worst offenses in the league. In the Panthers last week, Bryce Young still amongst the worst passers in the game. So like a bounce back here. The biggest thing for the Bengals is that they didn't go 0-1. They slayed that dragon, which is like the most pathetic thing ever. But they did it. So I like for them to bounce back here. I think that, 275 yards and 3 touchdowns is well within the cards for Burrow. I don't know how much we're going to get there with McCarthy. I'd like to see them lean a little bit more on the run game this week as well. So let's go Burrow here just because, you don't want to – you probably took Burrow, I'm imagining, in like the 6th round if we're talking redraft, right? You don't want to be benching him immediately. I know you want wins, but there is a reason you drafted Burrow there. You got to remember that. Too cute. All right, Space Ricky. What's going on? Walker, Charbs, or Mason?
It's not supposed to hurt, I thought. Ooh-wee.
Having to decide between Walker and Charbs in the same lineup is just so funny. I was pretty anti-drafting them on the same team all season long just because I wanted to not have to do this. And then, of course, as draft season approached and I'm actually live there singing from my computer, I fucking did it because I'm a little bitch. Let's see. I really like what is Zach Charbonnet is plus 235 anytime touchdown this week. They are traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe, right? That game is in Pittsburgh. Yep, that's a 1:00 early game, 40.5 over under. Steelers defense was one of the big losers for me last week, man. I don't know what the hell happened. I guess they are pretty old, and one of their best players was holding out for most of the offseason. He did play, but he looked like shit. Let's see here. Last week against the run, the Steelers were 24th in EPA, and they actually got shredded during the past game too. But that doesn't really matter. The thing is, like Ken Walker, if you watch the tape from last week, I mean, Zach Charbonnet's blocking was just a little bit better. And now he obviously did more with what he was given, but almost every 7 of Kenneth Walker's 13 touches, he was met at or behind the line of scrimmage immediately. I'm not excusing that. He didn't do much with what he was given either, and Charbonnet got that goal line work, but I don't expect that to continue. This week, I like Walker. I'll be the guy to say it. I think they're going to get him a little bit more involved. I think they're going to have more leeway with their running lanes and their outside zones and all that gap shit that makes running back successful in a Clint Kubiak offense. It's going to be, I think, his game, my game with these guys, which is not what you want, but your best set out. The best way to figure this out is to figure out who they're playing and what the weaknesses are. And the Jets tore him up last week, and I think that the Seahawks have the ability to do something similar as well on the ground. So let's take the big play guy there in Walker. And let's not leave out Jordan Mason here, who I'm a big fan of as well. I have him on so many of my teams. He's probably my most exposed running back. But let's see here. What time is that game there? We got Vikings. That's another night. What are they doing? Another night game. We got the Falcons coming to Minnesota. I thought the Falcons did an excellent job of bottling up the Bucs last week. That rushing attack. I mean, Bucky got his touchdown and he still looked good, but overall they clamped on him. So I don't think that something terribly similar will happen with the Vikings because I think they have a better offensive line right now with Wirfs injured, Graham's on the Bucs, Graham Barton's moved over to left tackle. They've got all kinds of shit going on. I do like Mason for an anytime touchdown today. I'd love to get the odds on that and see. I thought it was like plus 210 when I saw it last, but let's get the touchdown and the yards with Charbonnet. All right, not that. What do we got here? Ooh, Slashy's in the house. Ooh, Slashy, this is just the man popping in to say what's up. Greg, I'm not missing you, buddy. I have 2. Pick Keenan Allen. Or pick 2. Keenan Allen, George Pickens, Kenneth Walker, Hollywood Brown, Keon Coleman, half PP.
Julian. I don't know where I felt like I get a little drink around here, do you, bud?
This is so funny. Because look you're looking at like a 13th rounder, a 5th rounder, a 4th rounder, maybe another 13th, 14th rounder, and then a 9th rounder, I think is where Keon Coleman was going, somewhere like that. So it's just like, it just tells you how much shit is thrown against the wall after week 1, that this is like you trying to hurdle these obstacles. And we've got to see the Chargers taking on the Raiders, whose defense I thought looked pretty decent last week, although they could have just been that the Patriots suck. Pickens taking on the Giants. We already talked about them being okay. K9, we just talked about Hollywood and Coleman. I'm probably going Hollywood. Oh, shit. Yeah, now Hollywood's going to get the clamps. Let's go Pickens, because I do think that like a 50-yard bomb is in the cards today. And then let's go Pickens and K9. Yeah, I can't recommend K9 and then back right off of him, right? Hollywood, they are going to draw up stuff for him. I just don't think it's going to be successful. Keenan, I like, but it's like, a little up there. I don't see all three of these receivers on this offense eating every week. We need a big lab game. QJ looked pretty good. And then Keon, like I said, I want to wait and see 1 more week. So let's take your early round picks here. Let's not sit our studs this early in the season, guys. You got this. Come on, think about who you are. You're big, you're strong, you're fast, you're powerful. You're a big, powerful guy. All right, let's get to some more here. Scott, how you doing? But I one request to the chat, guys, and don't take this personally. I would love if you guys had profile pictures. It could be anything you want. I know you probably love your name. You love your letters. I like S. It's a soft, sensitive, sensual letter, sexual. There's a lot of fun ways you can go with S, but let's get some profile pics in there. It doesn't have to be a picture of you. It could be a picture of favorite show, favorite movie, high school yearbook, anything you want. That's just one personal request. All right, Darnell Mooney or Keon Coleman, PPR. Coleman getting sauce does not seem ideal. I do agree there, but then again, Michael Penix traveling to Minnesota to play this Brian Flores defense, I don't particularly love that as well. I just think for the full PPR, I feel a little bit better about Coleman versus the Jets than I do about Mooney versus the Vikings defense in general. I feel similarly, and that's why this is a good question. And I know I've poo-pooed Coleman in several of these start sits so far on the show, but the Mooney thing, just not feeling terrific about right now. More about him and where he's at in his health status and the matchup and then all that jazz. So, Podson, Fannin or Pitts?
I heard that. I wish I didn't hear that, but I just heard that.
God, how good did Harold Fannin look last week? Where was he? What was the overall? I think he had, let's get the old searcheroo in here. His overall stat line, what did he have, like 11 targets or was it 9 targets, something like that? And targets in different ways too, right? They were using him like everybody thought Evan Ingram was going to be used for the Broncos, right? He was their joker. And he was a willing blocker at the line and deep down the field as well. He was just doing all kinds of stuff. You guys, if you're tuned into the Player Profile or Subscriber Show or anything like that, you already know how amazing how historical his debut was. It was one of the 5 greatest debuts for a rookie tight end ever. And now here's what I've been wondering all week though, and I want answers from the chat on this one. Could we be sitting here tomorrow and being like, well, of course he had that. He played the fucking Bengals, and then he goes into Baltimore and they shut that shit down. Doesn't that seem very likely? Yes, it does seem very likely. Does it seem as or more likely than Kyle Pitts having a successful game 2 games in a row? Kyle Pitts tied his second highest reception totals for a game in his entire career last week against the Bucs. But the Buccaneers linebacking core is the weakness of their unit. It's slow, it's old, and it's outside of Levante David, it's inexperienced. So for this one in particular, let's ride Fannin. If you're drawing up plays and particularly for your rookie tight end, I think that you want him to be a big part of your offense. I think Joe Flacco looked pretty decent. Surprise, surprise. And let's just, you probably dropped fat money on him in waivers, and let's put our money where our mouth is. It feels good. All right, let me scroll the chat here. Okay, so you guys do agree. Oh, here we go. Boo the letter, people. I'm going to try and keep up with the chat responses in real time as I continue to get to these. So I'm not going to miss a single start sit today. So if I haven't gotten to it yet, hold your horses. What's another phrase for hold your horses? If anybody has any folksy Midwestern or Southern substitutes for hold your horses, don't get your panties in a bunch. I love all that stuff. I'm a big fan of all that stuff. So, okay, let's get back to it here. Jesus Christ, you guys got them coming in today. I love it. Okay, we just did, where were we? Just did Fannin or Pitts. Official recommendation there was Fannin. Start Bowers in a close matchup with me, the injury and Monday Night Football game time, or be reserved and get for sure points and start Jonnu Goddard out as well. I'm going with Bowers here. I think Bowers is transcendent, and transcendent players, even when they play, they do well. So I would trust the process there. I think you'll be fine. And I don't think Jonnu, like if you get 6 points from Jonnu versus a 1 catch for 10 yards game from Bowers, that's 6 points isn't good. I don't think it's going to be like worth what the difference you could get from Bowers if he has an actual Bowers game. So Fannin or Fergie, this is a fun one. Let's go with Fergie here. Surprisingly, I thought that, Zach Ertz eating against the Giants defense was something to be encouraged about if you're playing other guys who aren't as old as Zach Ertz is. And I do like the potential for a Dak bounce back game here. So I think that one should be fun. Vegas over under total in that game is 45.5, which is almost a full touchdown higher than San Francisco, New Orleans, which I just think is funny in a game. And that is not just 45.5, but we've got New York, or we got Dallas winning by 5.5. So I think there will be points to be had there. John H., thoughts on Pickens this week? Last week I heard he had the top cover guy on him, so I'm hoping he sees a little bit more, like 7 to 8. Yeah, Pickens was blanketed last week pretty decently, but they also had him just doing a lot of dirty work. They didn't quite have him running the verticality that you would have wanted, but I think that was intentional by the Eagles. They played, they played a shitload of aggressive defensive coverages on these guys to prevent big plays, and that's why you hardly saw any of them. The ones you would have seen were CeeDee Lamb breaking loose, which is what he does, and dropping the fucking thing. So I was encouraged by I don't think you'll ever see a performance that the overall stat line was not indicative of how good this offense could be. Then last week, then how Dak looked. I would like to see a little bit more time in the pocket for him. He was pressured like a fucking madman, but he was playing the Eagles defense. So I think if you can look that good against what is probably considered one of the 2 to 3 best defenses in the league, you take the Giants on, who I still think could be a top half defense, but not nearly in that elite tier like these guys are. I think that this will be the week. They'll get their shit together. This Giants team is getting ready to be in a free fall. They're already talking about playing Jackson Dart at some point. So get in on that. Yeah. Brando, good to have you, bud. Space, Ricky, appreciate that. The Clips, I fought for the Clips, guys. I had to fight for them, but the battle was won. Happy Sunday morning to all those who celebrate. It's week 2.
The fucking man.
Holy shit, I'm gonna come.
These clips aren't just good for you guys. It's indicative of who I am as a human being and what I want to communicate to you. Now, Mark Harden, Ibuka or Hunter, man, you got to go with Ibuka. You got to go with Ibuka until I know that Travis Hunter can complete, or Trevor Lawrence can complete a fucking pass down the field, asshole. Okay, but let's walk that back a little bit. If you drafted Ibuka, last week was everything you wanted to see, right? Not just the targets and the touchdowns and the involvement, but going to him in important key moments, which I think is for a rookie to have that, I don't think can be underplayed. You saw the stories about how, he asked for the ball in that game-winning touchdown. He's done that before. 93% snap share, obviously, 21 points last week, 6 receptions, 4 for 67, 2 touchdowns. And like I said, I don't even think Baker Mayfield played well. Now, they do travel to Houston, which is not a good matchup overall. Bucs offensive line, I would like to check in and see if Worst plays. Now, that doesn't impact this start sit in particular. I thought Hunter looked good, but I just think it's going to be, a work in progress with Hunter consistency-wise. I think the fact that Brian Thomas Jr. Had the worst QB target rate of the week of any quarterback. Trevor Lawrence targeting Brian Thomas Jr. was the worst of any combination of 2 players last week. I don't think that sits well for the next week. I think they're going to force it to him. I think they're going to try and scheme him up easy targets, which of course takes away from Hunter. So the thing here is if Derek Stingley I would like to see who Derek Stingley is on as well. If he's on Big Mike, I think that Ibuka could eat all over the field, but asking the Bucs front without Wirfs or even a banged up Wirfs to hold back this Houston line, which is maybe the best in the league, honestly, that's going to be a tall ask. So we'll see here. I think this is going to be a shitty game, but Ibuka, man, you got it. Like I said, you got almost everything you wanted from his debut last week. Okay. Ooh, you guys are bringing the noise. These 8 a.m. is the way to go. I did 11 a.m. from Vegas last week after I was kicked out of the sports book for trying to hang up my Goodell. Hey, Raj, and Grudy here. And so I had to do it from the hallway. I had a lot of you guys show up, but this morning the boys are back in town, and it feels good. So let's all take another coffee break here, and let's bang out some start sits. Why would a football player plan a wedding during the football season? Oh, never mind. Taylor Swift. You know why? Because that's where the money is for this fucking thing. God. Don't forget, guys, players who get married before the season usually have bad seasons. We talked about this last week. Now, if you get engaged, usually it's a good year, which is why I'm not surprised that he scored a touchdown last week. Also, if you have a baby, it's a good year. So watch out for JJ McCarthy. I actually forgot about that. I might have to adjust my ranks. I'd be surprised if Keon is matched up against Sauce 50%. Slashy is a Jets homer, and he's talking truth right now. I believe him with what he says, playing a lot of zone coverage today. That should be good for guys like, in particular, like Khalil Shakir. So look out for that. Are we excited versus Mac Jones, Spencer Rattler today, or what? I'm probably more excited for this matchup than anybody in the world. I'm that guy in Superflex drafts who likes to punt on QB2, and Spencer Rattler was on almost all my teams, and I'm starting him this week because I'm a sick fuck. I like a sick fuck. Mac Jones, though, here's the thing with Mac Jones that you guys need to remember with this 49ers offense. We've seen them slide in Nick Mullins and have big games. We've seen them slide in Josh Dobbs and have big games. We've seen them slide in CJ Beathard. We've seen them slide in banged up Jimmy Garoppolo. Mac Jones is on that level, but they don't have the talent that they had right now in those years past. Kittle's out. Trent Williams is playing bad and hurt. Juwan Jennings is super banged up. Brandon Ayuk obviously still on IR. Christian McCaffrey is there, of course, and Ricky Pearsall's good, but I don't know if this is the set and forget superstar team that the 49ers offense has been. So just temper your expectations a little bit for what they can be. I think they'll lean on the run a little bit more. Saints defense last week, how were they? Let's get to it. I thought they actually looked pretty decent too. Granted, they were playing the fucking Cardinals. Saints defense last week in EPA per play, were they up there? 17th against the pass. Or were they against the run? 22nd against the run, and their success rate against Arizona was not bad at 13th. So they were okay. I mean, depending on how you guys personally feel about the Cardinals offense, that's average. So how do they do when the Shanahan shit show comes into town? I don't know, but you got to remember one thing about Kyle Shanahan.
You're a liar! You're a liar! You know something that you're not telling us, you slimy scumbag liar! Liar! Tell us what you know, you goddamn liar!
I love my life. All right, it's Ed. Steelers always struggle either way against young quarterbacks and mobile QBs when they shouldn't. That is true. How does Mike Tomlin still have a job? Ty Wilson wants to know Pickens, Judkins, Stevenson in half PPR. I'm going Pickens here. Judkins potentially limited snap count. They've come out and said that. And then Stevenson, it's going to have to be an injury for Stevenson in my world. Ken Walker, Aaron Jones, full PPR. I'm going with Ken Walker here. Aaron Jones was that very, very fortuitous touchdown away from being not the guy. You wouldn't even be asking this question if he didn't have that. Now he had it, and we have to deal with that. But I'm going with Ken Walker here. Drake May or Bo Nix today? Drake May. And I'll tell you why. If Drake May doesn't pop today against this Dolphins defense that was bottom of the barrel in every conceivable defensive metric last week against Daniel fucking Jones, then I don't know how to feel about this quarterback going forward. I don't care who his weapons are. I don't care that it's Josh McDaniels. I don't care that the offensive line gave up a lot of pressure last week, although there was some good individual pass blocking run rates. Drake May threw more passes than anybody last week. Did you guys feel that? Did you feel like he threw more passes than anybody last week? So I like him to run the ball today, use his legs, be the man, assert himself, assert dominance, go into Miami, and then go to club space and get bottle service after. Boo the letter people. Yeah, I'm happy to come back around it. Let's show this one. This is good. Shaka, boo the letter people, and then right into Trev with the big capital T. Half PPR, Cedric Tillman or Rome Odunze. I'm going Rome here. I just think he's going to get the targets. I'm very suspect about this Browns passing offense going into Baltimore. And I know that Baltimore got their asses handed to them last week in the second half of that game, but it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to work magic. If you're asking Joe Flacco to do something similarly, I think that's a tall one. I think Cedric Tillman, who the hell is that? I think Cedric Tillman's a good player, and I think he can do work as a top 3 weapon in a passing offense, but those aren't usually guys that eat week to week. So Addison, happy to have you, bud. Devonta Smith or Tony Pollard?
Me!
That's probably a little dramatic. These are actually both pretty good starts this week. We've got Tony Pollard. Let me get the right mouse here. We've got Devonta Smith, obviously traveling to KC. And then we've got Tony Pollard, who is I'm hoping for a bounce-back game against the Rams. I thought Nick Chubb actually looked pretty good last week against this Rams front seven. Now, all the clips you guys saw from that game were basically the pass rushers for the Rams terrorizing C.J. Stroud. But that's really the only thing that they're good at. They're not terrific against the run. Their back is not very talented either. So Tony Pollard at home. We got the home debut for Cam Ward. I think they moved the ball a little bit better against this team than they did in Denver. I like a Tony Pollard touchdown this week as well. Let's get the anytime touchdowns up right here, or we get anytime touchdowns. So, and then you've, of course, got Devontae Smith traveling to KC, who, look, when Dallas Goedert's out, the statistics for these Eagles wide receivers are very encouraging. Obviously, we've seen how they've done against them in the past, and they almost always crush this team. And here's the thing with Devonta Smith. This is just what's going to happen with a player like this. With a team that runs the ball like they do, the weapons like they have, with the quarterback like they have, and that's not a knock, it's just play style, he's going to be boom bust. And the reason why I liked Smith this year is that he wasn't boom bust in the third round like he's been going in the past. He was boom bust in the sixth round. So I feel a lot better about that. I do like him to bounce back. And, of course, we saw the Chargers absolutely body bag this Chiefs back seven last week to the tune of all three of the wide receivers, of course, eating. But the passing EPA for KC last week was 29th. That's shitty. So let's keep that train rolling. All right, Nicholas, Tillman or Jennings? Full PPR, leading Tillman with the injury in QB. Yeah, not loving Jennings. I wouldn't even be loving a full healthy Jennings. Just don't think he's the player that he was getting hyped up as. Didn't love all the offseason drama. I hate players like that. I don't hate him. I just hate that kind of storyline. Look, guys, my favorite show is Mad Men. I like quality writing in my television shows, and I thought that was bad writing by Juwan Jennings. So let's go Tillman here. I think that Tillman is basically the Juwan Jennings of his offense, and I think he's better at it. So, boom, that's called logic. Okay, George, please rank Fannin, Juwan Johnson, and Hunter Henry.
Whoa.
Look at that. A Mad Men shout out right into a Mad Men transition, guys. That's why they pay me the big bucks around here. That's why I wake up early to come do this for you guys. Ranking these guys in particular, I'm taking Juwan Johnson and then Fannin and then Hunter Henry. I was very encouraged by the Hunter Henry usage last week. Obviously, we saw what Tyler Warren did against this Dolphins defense. I think that Hunter Henry could do a poor man's version of that. But truthfully, I just thought that Juwan Johnson was a PPR dynamo last week, and he was a touchdown drop away from having one of the highest performances of the week, where you wouldn't even be asking this question. So let's say he hauls that in, and you've got, who's going to be the secondary pass catcher for Spencer Rattler, which has become one of the most sought-after positions in all of the National Football League. So I like all these guys. I think they probably score within 4 points of each other, but I'm going to take Johnson, then I'm going to take Fannin, and then I'm going to take Henry, because I do think that there's going to be a little more emphasis with the Patriots based upon some of the stuff I saw from Coach Speak this week, about maybe a little bit getting some other guys involved a little bit more, getting Diggs involved a little bit more, getting what's his name, Pop Douglas, a few more targets. What was the Pop Douglas stat from last week? I got to pull it up because I believe it was actually insane here. Pats, who did they play last week? Pats, Raiders. You guys have to remember, I also had a couple glasses of wine last night, so the brain's still coming alive. The reason I'm pulling this up is because it is hilarious if you didn't see it. Pop Douglas had the touchdown, but he had he had a touchdown, but he had 2 receptions for -2 yards. It's just one of those stats of the week, right up there with Justice Hill having 2 rushes for -14 yards. God, I'll spend all season looking forward to the NFL, and this is the shit they give us. Daniel Jones or May profile pick pregnant baby.
Don't. Just something quick like that.
Yeah. Don't.
Yeah. Don't. Stop it.
You stop it.
Imagine this being a question. Imagine going back to last Sunday morning at this time and asking this exact question. Actually, you know what? That one's actually not that crazy, because Daniel Jones has always been a capable rusher, especially after he's directly effing me in the A by vulturing 2 goal line carries from our boy Jonathan Taylor here. But who do we have this week? We've got obviously the Colts, who I thought, they have this is where the wake ups come. Colts have Denver coming to town, and that might be the number 1 offense or defense in the league. And then, of course, we talked about Drake May going there. So there's two ways you can look at this, right? The implied over-under is 43.5, Denver by 1.5 in that game. And, of course, Miami Patriots, we've got 42.5, -1.5 for Miami. Miami's favored in that game, which if you had told me Miami, I don't know if I would have had Miami favored against anybody but Carolina. So in that one in particular, I'm probably going to go with Drake May here just because I do believe he can have that pop-off game as to where I would be very surprised if Daniel Jones had a pop-off game against Denver. I'm not surprised that he had it against the Dolphins. I'm just surprised that he had it in general when you look up at the matchups here. So that's one to keep an eye on for sure. They're all ones to keep an eye on. We fucking love football. We love fantasy football. What kind of bullshit am I talking about right now? How are you up so early after a bottle of bourbon? There was no bourbon to be had last night, guys. I've got obviously my Pappy here. I've got my Maker's Mark right here. Trying to be a little bit healthier. So, of course, I had an Italian white last night, a Sicilian, trying to get into game shape a little bit. Keith Berry wants to know, QB Superflex, second spot, non-QB. Love that. Love that. I love a non-QB in the Superflex spot. I am rocking several of those guys today. One of them is being Jaden Higgins, if you guys want to know anything about me. Trevion Henderson, Jalen Waddle, Josh Downs, Roma Dunze, Keon Coleman, Zay Flowers. Leaning Flowers, I think Henderson is due to break a few, though. All right, when you have this many options, let's just go ceiling floor, right? So obviously ceiling is top Waddle. And then under that, I think you have Zay Flowers right there. And then I think you have Henderson. And then I think you have Dunze. And then I think you have Coleman and Downs. So Downs is going to be the odd man out in this passing offense with, Warren basically taking all of his touches. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the case all season, but that's what we saw last week. And then, of course, they're playing the Broncos. So that's going to be tough. Keon Coleman, I've talked about. I just don't think I want to see a little bit more. I don't know if I want to see if this offense has target consolidation or not. And then coming up through there, Odunze, who we've talked about, who I liked last week. But this, they're going to try some new shit. They have to. And then, of course, Henderson, they've been very vocal about getting him involved. I would love to see those rushing lanes open up a little bit more. The problem with getting Henderson a little bit more involved this week is that the strength of the Dolphins truly is their front seven, or particularly they're not their front seven, their defensive line. So if they could take one thing away from the Patriots, it's going to be the rushing attack, which already looked bad last week. So you're asking for Henderson's work to really come through the passing game or to break away a long one, which we didn't see a lot of from the Colts front last week. They were chunking away. And I think they had the horses to do so with Jonathan Taylor, with their offensive line. So that leaves us to Jalen Waddle. I'm going Waddle here. Waddle's your best bet, I think, to give you what a quarterback could give you. He also could give you what Tua could give you, which is to say shit in a bag. So that's just how I feel about him. Waddle, Henderson, Flowers, yada, 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 yada. Patient jackass, hold your horses. Yes, I like that. Would you start jerking it over eating her? Would you start jerking it over eating her as? Yes, I would. Hold on, I gotta quote that. I gotta get the picture here for the screenshot after this. Man, that's not very good, is it? Maybe something a little bit more serious. Yeah, okay, good. Appreciate it. This is Justin Pinsker, everybody, one of the leading fantasy football experts in Tampa Bay, Florida. Go over to him, say what's up. All right, Henry Odom, start to RB full, Hampton, Pollard, Aaron Jones, Mason, or KW3, full PPR. All right. The Hampton performance last week was a little discouraging in my mind, but also really the only thing the Chiefs have always been good at, no matter who they have or who's healthy, is stopping the run. Chris Jones blowing up run lanes last week. So I think that had a lot to do with Hampton's performance. So in full PPR, I do like him to have a bounce back week. I think that they can get after the Raiders a little bit more. I think they're going to have to as well. And then, of course, that leaves us with Pollard, Aaron Jones, Mason, or KW3. Let's go Pollard here, just because he doesn't have any timeshare. I think he can give you what K9 is going to give you, only without the having to come off the field for Charbonnet. So official recommendation there is Hampton and KW3. Half PPR, deep league tight end, Brenton Strange or Harold Fannin.
It's from Gillette Labs.
Gillette Labs?
Sorry, I didn't have an organic way to slide that one in, and I had to play it. I thought Brenton Strange actually looked pretty good. And like I said earlier, this this Jags-Bengals game has the highest over-under of the week at 48.5. If they're going to come out and try and keep pace with this team, they're going to have to get everybody involved, including Strange. So I actually like Strange here over Fannin. I don't know how many people are going to be giving you that answer today, but I just think that 5 for 50 and a touchdown is in the cards. It's always going to be in the cards for Fannin as well, but I just hate the matchup in particular. So let's ride that train. Lightning McQueen said PPR, QB, Dak or Lawrence, flex, Olave, Javonte or Judy. We're going Dak here. I think Dak's going to tear it up. Flex, Olave, Javonte or Judy. I'm trying to think of something funnier than Javonte Williams scoring touchdowns in back-to-back games in his Cowboy debut. Now, the Giants front seven they got their dicks shoved in a bag. Now, I'm not sure if that's a phrase or not, but they did by the Commanders' rushing attacks last week. Now, you could say that Cliff Kingsbury, he historically always has the top 5 rushing attacks, so maybe that has less to do with the Giants and more to do with the Commanders. But Dallas's success last week against the Eagles, if you can call it that, it came on the ground. Let's see here. Their EPA per rush last week, where was it? 14th, which I think, considering who they have at the position and who they were playing and where they were playing, is pretty encouraging. So let's go with full PPR, though. Yeah, let's go with Javonte there. I just think the lead back for the Dallas Cowboys is going to eat. Miles Sanders already fumbling his way out of getting play time. I would keep an eye on what they say about Jaden Blue going into this one as well. I will say I don't think any of these guys are going to terribly outscore each other. I don't love Judy this year, but I do think he'll be involved if they're down early. So official recommendation there, Javonte, but can't go wrong. Waddle or Tillman? I'm going Waddle. If you guys are just now joining the show, I talked about earlier in the program, Waddle has close to 50 combined fantasy points alone against this Patriots off defense at home over the last 3 seasons. I like history. I'm a big history buff. That's an official recommendation there as well. KJ Frederick, Ferguson or Fannin Jr., full PPR. Fannin Jr., you guys spent all your money on him on waivers, or at least a fair amount of it, and you don't know what to do with him. And I don't know in particular, because it's just like, was it just the Bengals defense, or was it, or is this going to be the dude for them going forward? I mean, their rookies were terrific. Dylan Sampson looked good. Fannin looked good. All kinds of fun stuff happening on this team. So that being said, I like Ferguson. I think that Ferguson anytime touchdown is a strong bet today. I just like what's going to happen here. The Cowboys own the Giants. They absolutely own them, and that feels like the way to go here. Joseph Matia, feels right. Sutton, Myers, or Coleman, half PPR. I'm trying not to point chase Coleman, but it's hard to. I know, and that's a brutal one. That's what we all want to do, right? We've all been dying for a Bills pass catcher to emerge from this offense ever since Gabe Davis left, and we're hoping that Coleman can do it. Now, there were a lot of underlying storylines about Coleman coming into the season, about everybody said he's changed, he's different, he's better, maybe even better than the gods. But Sutton feels like a pretty good play here. I think that the Broncos were lucky to get the win last week. I thought the offense played poorly. I thought Bo Nix played poorly. He wasn't pressured very much. He still didn't deliver, but Sutton ate. And so you take Sutton there, and then you compare him to Myers. So I think Myers looked good as well. But if Brock Bowers is playing, and if Brock Bowers isn't playing, maybe I feel better about that one in particular. But if he is playing, I still think it's Brock's show. So let's go Sutton here, Myers, and then Coleman. I'm just out on Coleman this week, guys. Not going to be recommending a whole lot. Javonte and Tracy, full PPR. Ooh, that's a fun one. I can't tell if Tracy looked good or not last week. I mean, the matchup was tough. They were down all game. His overall stat line was not great, but nobody's was. So is that a Tracy thing, or is that a Giants thing? I might be out on the Giants offense outside of Neighbors for a little bit until I just kind of see what they do. What is this team actually, as opposed to I've already seen what Javonte is against probably the best defense in the league. So let's go Javonte there, but just hold steady. Man, what are we at? 850. Man, we're cruising. How many more you guys got? Well, you guys have a lot. All right. Let's do some power hour here. We got to get to Damian Dillard here, who is giving over cash money to get his question answered. And I'm a cash guy. If you guys want to send me cash on the side as well, I'll do nothing but do your start sits. I'll evaluate. I'll do your taxes for you. All right, he wants to know Rome or Hollywood at the flex PPR. I'm going with Rome here. I would love to know in particularly what's going on now. I don't think Xavier Worthy is playing. I don't think there is an update on that, right? The thing with Hollywood is last night, which is really frustrating for anybody who drafted Worthy, is that they basically gave him all the Worthy touches. And he got like 16 targets, led all pass catchers. But I don't think you can repeat that against this Eagles team. I don't think they want to repeat that because it didn't work for them. I also think that he looked bad. So either way, let's say that Worthy isn't playing and it doesn't matter. I don't think we've already seen what Hollywood is capable of doing against this Eagles secondary, and that's just not the jam right there. So let's go here. Let's go Rome. Official recommendation, Rome. All right. Squirrel Stance says you speak low, but the memes are loud. Am I not loud? Do I need to turn my volume up here? You guys let me know if I could be a little bit louder, if you guys want me to be a little bit louder. Do you guys want drive time radio, or do you want like fun boom, like drive time radio? Do you guys want like mornings? Yeah, I can do some of these slow, or do you guys want me to do NPR? Whatever you guys prefer. All right, I'm here to serve. All right, let's get back to the start sits here because we got a bunch. Ibuka, Pearsall, or Tet McMillan, pick one. Wow. That is that's a tough one.
Go back to Treasure Island!
I'm going Ibuka here. I like Ricky. I like the target consolidation. I like that Jennings is a little banged up and Kittle's out for him, but I'm not sure I love the Mac Jones over Baker Mayfield. Kind of, who are you trusting here? Now, obviously, the matchup's better for Pretty Ricky, but I'm taking Ibuka. I think that the signs are all there for him to actually end up crushing. I was worried about how this was going to look a little bit when Godwin comes back, but Godwin ain't back. He ain't back for a little while. And then, of course, Tet McMillan, you're probably wondering why I didn't even mention him in that situation. I'm not loving this Panthers passing offense. At any point this year, they travel to Arizona, who is like my defensive streamer start of the week. Now, obviously, Tet's still going to get targets, but when you compare him to these other guys, I just feel better about this week in particular. It's hard to bench Tet, who you probably took in the 5th, but you probably took Ibuka in the 6th, and you probably took Pearsall in the 7th. So let's go Ibuka here, then Ricky, then Tet McMillan. I'm out on this Panthers team for a large majority of the season, unless you absolutely have to. Cade wants to know, full PPR, Genty, Marvin Harrison Jr., Travis Etienne, or Myers. That's a fun one. That's a good team. If I had to pick one, I'm going Marvin Harrison. I just love this matchup against the Panthers, who we just talked about. I thought he looked great last week. They're getting him involved all over the field. I know that's a tricky one against Genty, but we saw what we're going to get out of Genty last week, and I think you're probably going to get a repeat performance. He's going to have low yards per carry, probably average yardage, but he's going to get that goal line touchdown. So I like the ceiling of Marvin versus the floor of Genty. Here's what I'll say about Travis Etienne. They played the Panthers last week, who are one of the worst teams you'll ever see in your entire life, one of the worst run defenses you'll ever see in your entire life. The holes were wide open for Travis Etienne. Now, he cut very well. So his vision was much better than I thought it was going to be. I'll give him credit there. But I think we always have these week one stat lines that you look back at and you're like, man, that was absolutely insane. Let me see if I can find what I found last week from 2024. Let's go here. Yes. Here are running backs who rushed for 100 yards in week 1 of 2024. Joe Mixon, that was his season high. Jordan Mason, that was his season high. J.K. Dobbins, that was his season high. Ramondre Stevenson, that was his season high. And Kenneth Walker, that was his season high. That is running backs who ran for 100 yards week 1 last year. These offenses had all offseason to scheme up that first game. They trade Tank Bigsby, which is obviously good for ETN, but I think it's better for Tootin. And, of course, LaQuint Allen. Where are my LaQuint Allen managers out there? So that's how I feel about all that. Let's get back to her here. And also, guys, once we're done with the show here at 8, it's 8:55 here. We'll be wrapping up in just a few minutes. I'll be doing this on Twitter all day, too. I have a Twitter mega thread going on, so you can drop your start sits in there as well. So you're not just getting my answers, you're getting the answers of the crowd. You're getting the wisdom of the crowd, which when has the crowd ever let anybody wrong? Dustin Brown wants to know, Devontae Adams or Chris Olave. Devontae Adams today, I actually have him, and he is plus 168 anytime touchdown. think he's going to get on the board today. Let's rip through some more here. Full PPR, Tillman, Dobbins, or Jordan Mason at the flex. I'm going with Jordan Mason here. It feels like a good play. He's not going to get the passing work, but I do like him over Dobbins and Tillman. Waddle over Coleman. Is it too obvious? Full PPR. Yes, it is too obvious, and it is the play. Or Booty. No, we'll wait and see on Booty. I like him, but nobody spread the ball around more than Drake May last week. I know Booty had a nice stat line, but I want to see repeat performance. Kyle loves Mac Jones. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can't do anything about that. Mac Jones versus Rattler is the Aikman versus Steve Young of our generation, and I'm here for it. What's your Flex 6 Frenzy lineup? You'll find out live today once I post it, right after this starts it. I'm 0-1, already down. My opponent has Kraft, halfback. Okay. You need floor. Or no, you need ceiling. Because you're going up against a pretty high octane offense here. Neighbor. Already down. My opponent has Kraft, halfback, 2 wide receiver and flex QB. Neighbor, Pierman. Okay. I see a bunch of words there, Jose. I'm having trouble processing what's happening here. So I'll come back to that one at the very end. Producer Bass is on these clips today. I'm trying. Knicks or Fields. Also, real quick, hold on. Producer Bass is on these clips today. If you guys have a clip that you think would be good for this show and you'd like to be played, send it to me on Twitter. And if I like it, I won't just play it. I will find a way to overlay you on the clip for credit. That's I like to. High tide raises all boats. Knicks or Fields. Give me Fields for the rushing. LOL. Hell yeah. You speak low. Yeah, we talked about that. Lions versus Bears. Lions win at home versus Bengals. Jaguars. Yep, Calgary. Yep, you're calling it right there. Michael Penix or Patrick Mahomes. I like Mahomes here. I don't love the matchup for Penix. So basically, we're talking a matchup game. Mahomes is always going to find a way to get some points. Yeah, I thought he looked great with his legs last week. So if we get a little bit more scrambling versus Mahomes, I think that's fun. Let's see here. Would you start Warren or wait on Bowers? Oh, that's a fun one. I'm probably going with Bowers if he plays. I would watch the injury diagnosis here and see what happens. Even that's, he's that guy. Better flex, Jacoby Myers, Pearsall, or Mike Evans. Ooh, that's a tricky one there. Who's better? If you're looking for ceiling, probably Ricky Pearsall, just because he could get 10 to 12 targets in this game. If you're looking for floor, probably Mike Evans, which I know sounds strange, but I just think, with Godwin out, with Ibuka drawing, I know that D'Amico Ryans saw how Ibuka performed last week and is probably drawing up some sort of game plan to keep him involved. And Mike Evans is going to get his at some point. Juwan or Pitts? I'm going with Juwan this week, full PPR. Let's go with full PPR. Full PPR for this question. Okay, yeah. Let's go with Ricky Pearsall there. Don't start dimes against the Broncos. I agree. Keith Berry says thank you. I'm going with thank there. Ridley, J-Mo, or Hunter. Pick one. And Ridley, J-Mo, or Hunter. Pick one, full PPR. Let's go with Calvin Ridley there. And then Pitts or Hawkinson. Let's go with Hawkinson. Who from my wide receivers 1 and 2 at flex spot? Adam. Let's go with Adams there. Let's go with Quentin Johnston there. And let's go with Henderson there. Can someone please ask Booty question? I can't wait to see these clips. I got that for next week. Trust me, I don't have it yet, but I'm going to be coming with new clips every week. Fannin or Juwan? I'm going with Juwan. Waddle or Evans? I'm going with Waddle. This is one that I'm probably going to have to eat a lot of shit on next week, but we're going with Waddle. Sampson or Diggs? Let's go with Sampson. Johnson or Ingram? Let's go with Johnson. Hey, guys, I'm new here. In full PPR, I'm having trouble deciding whether I should start Genty, Marvin Harrison, ETN. I'm going with Marvin Harrison. Buka, Tet, Pearsall, J-Mo. Pick one, full PPR. If I'm picking one, let's go with the Buka. Flex, Sampson, or Diggs? Sampson. Question is Ingram or Juwan? Oh, yeah, I already answered that one already. 14-team full PPR. I need one RB and one flex. Harvey, Mason, Waddle, Charbs. Let's go with Harvey here. I like Harvey this week. If you need one, and you also need a flex, Harvey and Waddle. Well, we're getting pretty close here. Let's do a few more. Pick one, PPR, Strange, Coleman, Pacheco. Full PPR, oof. Let's go with Coleman here. We finally get a Coleman recommendation. DJ, Jazzy, Jeff style. Yeah, I like that. Johnson or Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams. Rootin' Tootin' Raspberry. Let's see here. We're almost to the end, guys. Juwan Johnson or Adams. Yep, we're going with Devontae Adams. I got you there. Here we go. Vino, I've got you. 14-teamer, full PPR, need one running back, one flex. Harvey, Mason, Waddle, Charles. Let's go with Harvey, going with Waddle. RJ Harvey or Trevion Henderson. RJ Harvey. Need help, my dudes. I did draft and I have hard choice. Ibuka, McMillan, Javonte Williams. Ibuka. Samson or Canine in half PPR. Let's go with Canine. Yeah, if it was full PPR, I'd go Samson, but half PPR, Canine. Tet McMillan. Tet for the upside or Zay Flowers, half PPR. If you want upside, let's go Tet. If you want floor, go Flowers. Half PPR, Ibuka, Pickens, Pollard. Let's go with Ibuka. And then full PPR, ETN, Hubbard, or Pollard. Let's go with, that's a funky one. Let's go with Tony Pollard, baby. Tony Pollard. And that's going to do it for the show today, guys. I want to thank all of you for your beautiful questions. Now let's get Baylor man in here. Hampton or Cook? Let's go with Cook. Okay, where was I? We'll be doing the show live every Thursday or every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you, Ben. And I'll actually tell you why I think that he's got a good matchup. I think he's going to get a ton of volume at home. I think they want to make things a little bit easier on Cam Ward. So feeling strong there. Or is it going with that one? Sunday morning, 8 a.m. But also, I will be posting a start-sit mega thread every Saturday while the college football games are going on. So if you guys want not just my opinion on these, but the crowds, you can hit those as well. I'll also be posting this right after this. And so, like I said, if you guys have any clips for the show that you would like to be played, I will get them on here. Edward Reyes says, good show. Upgrade the microphone. Let me check something here. Where's my audio set to? It's set to my AirPods. Are you kidding me? I've been doing this whole show with my AirPods. Well, I've got my Shure microphone right here. Jesus. It's always something. That is not a good sign for my fantasy teams. I'm laying down on the wire for you guys. Here's what the show should have sounded like if I was not an asshole. Tyler, start or stream with me, your host, Chuck Bass. This is what you guys should have been getting all day long. And instead, I always manage to step on a rake at some point. Yes. No more white wine for old Chucky Bass. Justin Pinsker forgives me. Edward laughs at my misery. Jordan Mason or Ridley, Calvin Ridley. All right, that'll do it for me, guys. I appreciate everything. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, here's what I would say.
But I didn't know what the fuck was happening because I've barely been sleeping since my wife got flipped upside down by a swing dancer at a wedding. He must have flipped my wife 8 times! And it really bothered me. Love you.